you're a son of a demon, you're also a demon. Generally, of course, Prahlad Maharaj wasn't, but he was a special character, special devotee. So he was preaching to these friends of his, and actually they became devotees. Many of them became devotees. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport here that this preaching is the best service to the Lord. There's no better service. Of course, there's different types of preaching. There's college preaching, right? There's book distribution. What other types of preaching is there? Copper, the bhakti rickshaw, yeah? Prasadam distribution, that's also preaching. Yeah. Harinam, that's also preaching. Ratha Yatra, sure. Yeah. Huh? ISKCON Desire Tree. Srila Prabhupada said the best preaching is book distribution. Because book distribution is the Brihat Mridanga. I recently wrote a book called The Treasure of the Brihat Mridanga. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that someone gets a book, then they take that book home and they learn how to chant Hare Krishna. And they learn why to chant Hare Krishna. It's like I started chanting Hare Krishna because I got a book. And I was already doing another mantra. I was already meditating. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explained very nicely why the Hare Krishna mantra is the Maha mantra. It's a great mantra for deliverance. So he was so convincing that I gave up the other mantra and I started chanting Hare Krishna. So, and so many people around the world, thousands of people, they're chanting Hare Krishna from reading, and they're becoming devotees from reading these books. So, there's many types of preaching. But Prabhupada, he very much emphasized the importance of book distribution. And he also was distributing books in America. He first came in America and there was no one there, practically. It's just him. Imagine you go to a country and you're the only devotee in the whole country. So he was the only devotee there. He was distributing books. Anybody know how many books Prabhupada brought?
107.
Yes. That means 600 books. So Prabhupada was distributing books on consignment. He would put books in stores. And after they would buy, then he would go there and the store owner would give the Lakshmi and he would put more books. So he was going around New York City selling books in this way. So he started the book distribution in America. And here, Prahlad Maharaj, he says, show mercy to all living entities. This is a devotee. Devotee is very compassionate. Therefore it's stated, Titikshaya Karuniya, Maitra Chikila Jantashu, Samatvena Chisarvatma Bhagavan Sampasiditi. Swayambhuva Manu, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he says, if a devotee approaches other people with these four qualities, then Krishna is very quickly pleased with that devotee, very quickly pleased. The first one is tolerance. Tolerance is so important. We can't distribute books if we're not tolerant. It's not possible. We have to tolerate the cold, just like in Russia. You do so many books in Russia, in the cold. And other devotees are distributing books in the heat. It gets very hot sometimes. In the rain. So, and sometimes people, they'll verbally abuse us, and sometimes even physically abuse. Of course, that doesn't happen so much anymore. Back in the 70s and 80s, that used to happen because we weren't very very good at our approach, sometimes. So it came back to us sometimes in a negative way. Now we've kind of cleaned up our act quite a bit. So people are much more kind towards us. We've learned a lot from our mistakes. But still, we have to be tolerant. We have to tolerate rejection. People say no to us, and we get a lot of no's, then it becomes more and more difficult. The more no's you get, the more difficult it is. But actually, this is an opportunity to get more purification. So it's very good. So just like when people take a book and give a donation, we appreciate it and we thank them. So when we get no's, we should also thank them, because they're helping us to develop tolerance. It's such an important quality. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya says, Tranadapi Sunichina, Tarorapi Sivisana, Amanina, Manadina, Kirtaniya Sadahari. And it's stated by Krishnadas Kaviraj that this verse should be worn around one's neck, strung by the holy name. There's no other verse that he said that about. So it's very important. Yeah. So if we're tolerant, then we can also become compassionate. If we're not tolerant, then there's no possibility of compassion. And compassion is a very wonderful quality. We're all here because of the compassion of the great acharyas, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who instructed Prabhupada to go to the West and preach in the English-speaking language. Very compassionate. And Prabhupada, he took on that instruction, and despite so much difficulty we can't imagine, he tolerated. And the compassion was there, so many people listened to him. Excuse me. Not only compassion, he was very tolerant. You know, he had just come from Vrindavan. Now he's in New York City. He's never seen snow. And he saw the wall next to his building, and it was all white. He thought somebody had come in and painted the building. It was all snow. And he only had a dhoti, kurta, chutter. He had a chutter. Didn't have any big coat or anything, or any gloves, or didn't have any warm shoes. He had those rubber shoes. Right? So he tolerated all that for us. So we should also tolerate whatever inconvenience may be there in our book distribution. The main problem, the main thing we have to tolerate is the mind. The mind comes up with so many ideas. This is too difficult. Yeah. I'm not so advanced. Or we become attracted to the material nature. Prabhupada said, I was just recently reading in one purport, Prabhupada said, devotees of the Lord, they're not interested in sense gratification. They're not interested in this petty materialism. He used this word petty. You know petty? Petty means small. Small time. Insignificant. Devotees aren't interested in this insignificant materialism. Nothing. They're interested in Krishna. They're interested in satisfying the senses of Krishna. Sarva pariva nirmukta, tatpad vena nirmukta, rusikena rusikena, sevana bhakti. That devotional service means to engage our senses in the service of the master of the senses. And the result of this is our senses become purified. And we become free of material designations. So this is the result of devotional service. And there's so many services also, just like there's so many types of preaching. There's so many different services. So this service of book distribution is very, very important. Of course, service is also absolute. Yeah. It's not that only book distributors are going to get the mercy of Krishna. We shouldn't be so arrogant. There's so many ways to serve Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada said this is the service where you get the most recognition. Because Krishna has a purpose. He comes here with a purpose to help the living entities go back to Krishna. So if we develop this compassion, if we're tolerant, then possible. Tatikshaya karunya. Maitra means friend to everyone. So we go to people with tolerance, with compassion, and friendly towards everyone. Because if you think about it, everybody is a spirit soul. Everyone is part of Krishna. So if we approach people in that way, we can approach people like they're an old friend. Because they were. In the spiritual world, they are part of our family. Everybody is part of our family. Because we're all spirit soul. So of course this understanding or this consciousness gradually develops as we continue on in this bhakti yoga process. I'll tell you a nice pastime of Prabhupada in this regard. Prabhupada was in India, Vrindavan. One of his disciples, Giriraj Swami, had joined the movement, and his parents were very upset about this. They're very wealthy. And he was the only son. So then he moved to Vrindavan. So that was even more difficult. They had a lot of affection for him. So they flew to Vrindavan, trying to get him to come back to America. They picked him up at the airport. Immediately they were trying to talk him into going back to America. He said, "No, I like it here. I'll stay here." So the father thought, well, maybe if I go to his guru, he'll have some sympathy. So he asked Giriraj Brahmacharya at the time, "I'd like to speak to your guru. Please, can you arrange a meeting?" He said, "Yeah, no problem." So Giriraj was there, his father, his mother was there, Prabhupada, and the servant. So the father said, "You know, this disciple of yours, my son, he's our only son, and we have a great deal of affection for him. And now he's way over here in India. It's very difficult for us. Can you please send him back to America?" And Prabhupada turned to Giriraj and said, "Do you want to go back to America?" He said, "No, Prabhupada, I want to stay with you." So Prabhupada looked at his parents and he went, "You don't want me to force him, do you?" "No, no." So then Prabhupada suggested a plan. He said, "Giriraj, why don't you go to the foothills of the Himalayas? There's nice resorts there. Spend 5 days with him, 5 or 6 days. Yeah, spend some time with him." And Giriraj said, "Yeah, I can do that." So their parents are very happy. So they flew to Haridwar somewhere, got a nice resort, stayed there for some time. Giriraj was cooking nice prasadam for them. And then they went back, and Giriraj wanted them to get some association with Prabhupada before they flew off back to America. So he arranged a meeting. And Prabhupada spoke to them for about an hour. Didn't preach to them. Sometimes preaching means not preaching. Yeah, there's different types, you know. Prabhupada's very intelligent. Sometimes people are ready to hear the message of Krishna and some people aren't. So sometimes it's good just to be a friend. Just to befriend them. That's big preaching there. As we're going to find out. So they had a good conversation. Prabhupada was joking about the differences between America and India, and they were laughing and having a good time. And it was time to leave, and they left. The parents left with Giriraj. And the servant to Prabhupada, he was there during that whole era, that whole hour. And he said, Prabhupada, you amaze me. Everyone loves you so much. And Prabhupada looked at him and said, that's because I love everyone so much. So this is why this movement spread all over the world, because there was so much love, so much compassion there in Srila Prabhupada. Not only was he friendly to everyone, he had love for everyone. Just like in Hawaii, there was one devotee that was cleaning Prabhupada's room. And he found one insect, one very unusual looking insect that you probably only find in Hawaii. So he said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, look at this insect, very unusual looking. So Prabhupada came over and said, yeah, very unusual. And he said, chant to the poor thing. So Prabhupada saw the body, but then he also saw the soul. He had compassion. Give this insect Krishna. So then the devotee started chanting Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada wanted everybody to hear about Krishna. He wanted everybody to benefit. Therefore, when he saw one sign that was advertising Sinclair Paint, it's a big paint company in America, big sign, Sinclair Paint, and the advertisement was, there was a can of paint, and it was pouring paint on the whole planet. And Prabhupada said, this is our mood, this is what we want. We want to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. We want to pour this mercy of Krishna all over the world. Every nook and corner, we want people to hear about Krishna. This is the desire of someone who is very compassionate, who knows that everybody is a soul, and that if they don't serve Krishna, then their future is going to be very, very dark. I'll tell you one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard. I read this just yesterday. See, if we don't serve Krishna, if we engage in sinful activities, what happens? Everyone sees the Yamadutas, right? So yesterday I read this story of a lady. Her father had cancer. And her father, she explained, he was a very well, together person. He was really together. If there's any problem, he would fix it. He would work it out. But he got cancer. He tried chemotherapy, didn't work. Tried it again, didn't work. So he understood, I'm not going to get around this. So his daughter, this devotee, she flew there to America to help him. And while she was speaking to him, he would say, what are these dogs? What do these dogs keep coming around? And there's this ugly creature, he's floating outside the window. What is this? And it didn't dawn on her at first. Couldn't figure it out, but then she realized, these are the Yamadutas. And then she was there with him, and he said, untie me, untie me. And he was just speaking, not to her, he was just speaking. And then one night she was resting, and her daughter was there as well, 12-year-old daughter. She said, Mata, please come. Granddad needs you. So he was shouting. He hadn't eaten for like 12 days. He had no energy. But he was shouting, give me peace, just let me sleep for 10 minutes. And he was just in big distress. So then she realized that he's being captured by the Yamadutas. And she said to him, I'm sorry that I didn't realize this early. Please forgive me. I know what you're going through. And she sat there and she chanted to him, just in his ears. And she asked him, have they let you go now? He said, yes, they let me go. So then she's just chanting, and she's putting Vrindavan dust on his head, putting Ganga water in his mouth with Yamuna water. Her mother is Christian, very staunch Christian, but she just let her daughter do whatever you want. Just do whatever you want. Yeah. She was just completely free to do whatever she wanted. So she was doing all these things to help him in this journey. So he was really, I've never heard a description of this from a devotee that was so graphic. I was amazed. You can read it there on Dandavats. If you go online, you can read it on Dandavats there. In less than one day, there was 20,000 hits. With devotees, it's being spread all around. Devotees are reading this. So, if we had any doubt about the Vedic literatures, from reading this, you'll understand there's no doubt. There's Yamadutas. And what they call these is they call them terminal restlessness. Terminal restlessness, the doctors and the nurses. Because it's a very, very common thing. That people are practically dead and they just become very restless. He was also, he had no energy, but he was just so restless. He was trying to hide under his pillow and under his blanket, and he was just... So they don't know about the Yamadutas, the medical people there. They don't know. So she said it should be called Yamaduta restlessness. The Yamadutas are coming. So when we're distributing books, we're giving them an opportunity to avoid Yamaduta restlessness. People are so sinful, taking drugs, eating meat, taking alcohol, gambling, so much sinful activity they're doing. So they have no idea. And this devotee's father, he was also a hunter. Not only did he eat meat, he was a hunter. He would go out and kill animals. So, but he's very fortunate. Imagine how fortunate. And she was a very exalted devotee just to go through all that with him. To be there. She was there just holding his hand and chanting for 3 hours in his ear before he passed away. So there was some benefit there. The Yamadutas actually, it's interesting that he said, she's got me. She's got me. I tried to get away, but she's got me. So I didn't know there was female Yamadutas. And wherever there's a man, there's a woman too, right? So there's women Yamadutas also, and this, I guess you can call her Yamadutini, maybe? There's female Yamadutas, and she got him. And there wasn't anything he can do. But when this devotee went there and chanted, she let him go. So he got some mercy there. Where he went, we don't know. But he's the daughter, or he's the father of a daughter, so definitely he got some benefit. And it's said that if we become a pure devotee, then 14 generations benefit. They get liberated. So he's the first generation. If she becomes a pure devotee, then he gets delivered. But immediately he got help there. She let him go. After that, who knows what happened, but there was definitely some benefit. So this is another thing that's beneficial about book distribution. People find out that there's Yamadutas. Did any of us know there was Yamadutas? Maybe some of the Indians? Did you know, the Indian devotees? Did you know there was Yamadutas? Yeah? No. Even the Indians didn't know. You knew? No? Yeah, you see there, even the Indians didn't know. So now we know. There's Yamadutas and there's Vishnudutas. That's right. And if we engage in devotional service, then guess what's going to happen? We're going to be taken by the Vishnudutas. I'll tell you a nice Sankirtan story of a devotee that was distributing books in an airport. And he happened to have the 6th canto. And he approached one young man, showed him the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, and in this particular canto was the Yamadutas taking a jamya. So he was looking at the pictures and, interesting, but yeah, didn't take the book. But this person, he actually was going to a place to be treated for terminal cancer. So he flew out. A few months later, he was flying through the airport again. And he wanted to find this devotee. He found somehow this devotee was there, same devotee. He said, "Show me that book. Show me that book you showed me." He said, "Which one?" "I think you said the 6. "Oh yeah, okay, 6 canto." So he pulled out that book. He said, "Let me see those pictures." So he saw the Yamadutas. He said, "Yeah, those are the guys. I saw those guys. I saw those guys." And the devotee said, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" "I was in the hospital, man. I had terminal cancer. And I was practically on my way out. And these guys showed up. And I'm screaming, 'No, go, get away, get away, go away, go away, go away, go away.' And then somehow, they let me go. And I knew it was because I saw these books. Because I had that, I saw these books. And as soon as they went away and I pulled out of this, I thought, I got to get these books. So I bought all the books that the devotee had. Amazing, huh? So of course they didn't look exactly like that, but they had, this girl, this 12-year-old girl, she also saw the Yamadutas. 3 of them hovering over her grandfather. And she even gave description of what they looked like. There was tusk coming out of their mouth. Really gruesome looking. But it's amazing that she also was able to see them. Because usually only people that are on the verge of death see the Yamadutas. Somehow, she was also able to see. So we're very fortunate. We're not going to see the Yamadutas. Because we're taken to Krishna consciousness. And if we really take Krishna consciousness seriously, we may even see the Vishnudutas. But we got to be a pure devotee to do that. So this kind of inspired me to get real serious about Krishna consciousness. So continuing, I mentioned 3 in this verse. Tikshaya, Karunya, Maitra, Chikila Chandras, Samatvena, Jasharvadma, Bhagavan Samprasiditi. The 4th one is to see everyone equally. to see everyone equally. Because everybody is a spirit soul. Sometimes, we've all probably had the experience, you approach someone and you're thinking, this person's probably not going to take a book, but let me try anyway. And the person takes a book, enthusiastically. Any of you ever had that experience? Yeah, I think we've all had that experience. One time I had an experience in the airport. It was very slow, and there was one businessman coming with, like $1,000 suit, just looked sharp. And generally we don't approach them because they just kind of they just shoo us away. But I thought, anyway, he's a spirit soul. Let me try. So I stopped him, tried to, and actually stopped. Shown him the Bhagavad Gita, and he's like, wow, this is nice. I'm into this. Thanks for stopping me. And he gave a real nice donation. And he went off with the Bhagavad Gita. And I was just kind of chastising my mind. You see, you rascal. You were thinking he wasn't going to take. But he took. Anybody can take. One time a devotee asked me, so what kind of people are taking books now? What kind of people are taking books now? I said, if I'm sincere, anybody will take a book. Isn't it? If you're fired up, you're enthusiastic, practically anybody will take a book. It just depends on our utsaha, enthusiasm, our sincerity. Utsaha nischayadharya tatat karma pravartana. So, to be enthusiastic. So how do we become enthusiastic? We have to connect with that person who is so enthusiastic. Prabhupada. This is where I get my inspiration from, reading Prabhupada's books. Nothing is more inspiring than reading Prabhupada's books. And reading, of course, Krishna's words, the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, very inspiring. If we diligently read Prabhupada's books, then you're going to want to distribute books throughout your life. I guarantee it. Because I've seen so many devotees like that. Still, there's so many devotees who've been distributing books for 30 years. Now 40 years. Almost 50 years. Imagine that. Yeah. So many people, they give their life to sense gratification, right? Practically everybody on the planet, they dedicate their life to satisfying their senses, which they aren't, by the way. They're not their senses. But they're dedicated to satisfying something that they aren't. So Prabhupada wanted people to dedicate their life to preaching this message of Krishna throughout the world. And Krishna says, prana, artha, dhyavacha. He says it's the duty of all living entities to give their life for the benefit of others. This is Krishna's instruction. It's our duty to give our life to help others. He said this to the cowherd boys. Remember when the cowherd boys, he instructed them to go to the brahmanas and get some prasad from them. And the brahmanas, they just didn't even listen to him, just neglected them. They got no's. They got no's from the brahmanas. So when Krishna heard this, he said, that's okay. When begging, we have to be tolerant. It's okay, it's good. But then he chanted this verse. It's the duty of everyone to give their life. And there's no better way to give our life to Krishna than to giving Krishna to others. No better way. Artha, we should give our wealth. If you can't distribute books yourself, then we have this Shastradan. Shastradan. You give donations for devotees to put books in libraries and coffee shops and so many places. So that's another way. But he can approach people one-on-one. But if someone's determined, there's always some way that one can distribute books. Give donations for book distribution. There's smart boxes. How many of you have heard of the smart box? This was Vijaya Prabhu's idea. Vijaya Prabhu, he's established this thing called the smart boxes. And what they do with these smart boxes is they have these boxes, they have books in them, like on a rack, and there's a box. That's where you put the money in, the Lakshmi. In Singapore, it's illegal to distribute books. But there's 100 smart boxes in Singapore, and they're distributing a lot of books. They've distributed 5,000 books in the past 6 years with these smart boxes. So where there's a will, there's a way. So if you want to distribute books, there's always some way to distribute books. So prana, artha, diya. Diya means our intelligence. We should use our intelligence in how to distribute books. Prabhupada said we should tax our brain, tax our intelligence on how to distribute more books. There's no other service where Prabhupada said you should tax your brain on how to cook, or how to do this, or how to do that. Tax your brain on how to get more books out to the people. Why? Because this is the only lack in society. Everybody's hungry. They're not hungry for food. They're not hungry for sense gratification, actually. What they're hungry for is Krishna. But they don't know it. They don't know it. They're sleeping. They don't know that the best thing for them is to become Krishna conscious. They have amnesia. Just like there's an amazing story of one person in California. He was a student and he was riding his bike and he fell down, and when he got up he had amnesia, serious amnesia. Didn't know his name, didn't know where he lived, zero. Didn't know what to do. So he saw the bike there, he figured it must be his bike because it's down and he was down. So he picked it up and he's walking his bike, not knowing where he's going. So one devotee saw him and he said, "Hey, how's it going? Where are you from?" "I don't know." "What do you mean you don't know?" "I just wrecked my bike. No memory. Nothing. Don't know my name." So the devotee had compassion on him. He said, "Well, I'll tell you who you are. You're the eternal servant of Krishna." So he said, "Okay, well, now I know something at least." So the devotee understood his very awkward situation, and he looked like a nice young man from a nice family. So he took mercy on him, gave him mercy, and he took him under his wing, and he took him to his apartment, and he taught him about Krishna consciousness. And he became a devotee. Krishna's mercy. So he became a book distributor too. Omkar. Very good book distributor. He had a style of book distribution that I never saw in anyone else. Whenever they would ask how much, he would say, whatever you want. Generally, we always say a price, right? But he would never do that. Whatever you think is okay is okay. And somehow he'd always come out, double BBT. He wasn't one of the big collectors, but he liked that. And I also kind of, it doesn't make them feel uneasy. Sometimes when we say a price, it makes them feel a little uneasy. And sometimes they even walk away and give the book back and, no, it's okay, too much. Right? But he always had that. So after a couple of years, he wanted to find out who he was materially. He found out who he was spiritually, Sarvata Krishna, but he still didn't know who he was materially. So he went back to the school, and he had these papers that had his picture on it, little leaflets. And the caption was, I have amnesia, I don't know my name, I don't know who I am. If you know who I am, please call this number. And about 6 people called up. Yeah, I know who you are. Gave him his name and told him about it. Even one person knew who his parents were. What's ironic is, he found out that before this accident, he was a big atheist. So Krishna covered all that up and made him a devotee. Amazing. So practically everybody has amnesia. They don't know who they are. They think they're this bag of bones and blood, fat. Prabhupada gave us a nice, he has so many nice realizations. He said, in one class he said, a person may have glasses. The glasses they don't see, right? They don't see. But we see through the glasses. And you take that deeper, the eyes are also not seen. It's the soul that's seen through the eyes. Because as soon as the soul leaves the body, even though the eyes may be very good, do they see? They don't see anymore. Because it was the soul that was seen through the eyes. So, another one of Prabhupada's amazing realizations, filled with so many wonderful realizations. So, we want people to also come to this understanding that they're not this body, they're the soul. And they're going to continue according to their karma. Of course, people are understanding this more and more. Now I heard about 20 million people believe in reincarnation in America. Even I have 2 sisters that are full-on Christians. They both believe in reincarnation. And believe it or not, back in the 1500s, there was a whole group of Christians that believed in reincarnation in France. And according to the Bible, that's there. But it got out to the Catholic Church that there was this group that believed in reincarnation. They killed them all, just because they believed in reincarnation. So demoniac. So, there's so much that we have to let them know. So continue with this purport. It's a really nice purport. The Lord will immediately be extremely satisfied with one who engages in this service of preaching Krishna consciousness. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita, 1869, Nacha tasman manushyesu kaschan me prikritama. That there's nothing that is more pleasing to Krishna, and there'll never be anything that is more pleasing to Krishna than this giving of transcendental knowledge to the devotees and to the non-devotees. Because as we heard day before yesterday, there's people out there they're not envious of Krishna. They just don't have the knowledge. You give it to them and they'll be like, whoa. Just like many of us. When I read the Bhagavad Gita, I was like, whoa, this is the absolute truth. This is why I have my life, to find this. So there's a lot of people out there. Prabhupada actually said that there's a Brahmana waiting at every corner, every street corner. There's a Brahmana waiting. Amazing statement. So there's many, many people out there that are spiritual, and they're looking for serious spiritual life. I'll tell you one nice book distribution story. I was distributing books in Los Angeles, and I approached one lady, and she said, "You're Hare Krishna?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Oh yeah, you know, I used to be with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and you would be amazed how much the Jehovah's Witnesses try to keep their people from joining the Hare Krishna movement. So much propaganda against the Hare Krishnas." She was amazed. She was thinking, why do they keep on knocking the Hare Krishnas? And then she started thinking, they're so afraid, they seem to be afraid of them. Maybe they have something actually of value. So she found a devotee, and she got a book, Science of Self-Realization. And after reading the Science of Self-Realization, she understood why the Jehovah's Witnesses are so afraid of the Hare Krishnas. Because they got something. And I showed her the Bhagavad Gita, and she said, "Oh yeah, I've heard of the Bhagavad Gita, the Science of Self-Realization. It's always mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, I'd love to have a Bhagavad Gita." So she gave a really nice donation for the Bhagavad Gita. And we both started laughing because they were trying so hard to keep her away from joining the Hare Krishnas. And because they tried so hard, for that reason, she became more favorable to Hare Krishna. I don't know if she became a devotee. I lost contact with her. But she was more favorable, much more favorable to Hare Krishna because of their insistence on staying away from the Hare Krishnas. Interesting, huh? So, yeah, we have very valuable knowledge. And even one Christian priest told Prabhupada. Prabhupada was flying out from one airport, and one priest went to Prabhupada and said, "These boys you have, they're our boys. And they weren't interested in God at all. And now they're mad after God. And they're bright-faced." And he asked them, "Where have we failed?" And Prabhupada said, "Where have you not failed? You failed everywhere." So, Prabhupada's given us so much wisdom. Krishna's given us so much. So we should be grateful. And the best way to show gratitude is to do that which pleases that person who gave us this knowledge. Krishna, Prabhupada. We should be very grateful. And if we're not grateful for this, then we're great fools. So we should be very, very grateful. Count our blessings that we're here in Mayapur, hearing the glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like this morning, and And now Gaur Purnima is going to be in a couple of days. So much glorification of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We get to hear about this most wonderful avatar, most merciful avatar. So we should take advantage of this hearing and chanting. So continuing with this verse. If one sincerely tries his best to spread Krishna consciousness by preaching the glories of the Lord and His supremacy, even if he is imperfectly educated, he becomes the dearmost servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is bhakti. As one performs this service for humanity without discrimination, equipoise, between friends and enemies, the Lord becomes satisfied, and the mission of one's life is fulfilled. So the mission of our life is to develop love for Krishna, right? So Prabhupada's saying here that if we do this preaching, if we sincerely, with a serious attitude, do this preaching, our life will be fulfilled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised everyone to become a guru devotee and preach Krishna consciousness. Yare deka tare kaha, Krishna upadesh. Now this next sentence is an amazing sentence. So perk up your ears, this is an amazing one. This is the easiest way to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anybody here want to realize Krishna? So Prabhupada's saying here, you preach this Krishna consciousness, and this is the easiest way to realize Krishna. This is the goal of life, to realize Krishna, that He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna says, Yom mamevama samhudo, janati purusottama, sasarvid bhajantimam. I can't remember the last name. Sarvavena Bharata. Anyone who knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's the knower of everything. And whoever knows this, he becomes wise. In all his endeavors, they know perfection. So, the more we do this activity of preaching, of giving Krishna to others, the more we're going to realize, first of all, that we're spirit soul. We're not men, we're not women, we're not Russian, we're not American, we're not Indian, we're none of this. First we're going to realize that, and then we're going to gradually realize Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if you really want to get this, dedicate your life to this distribution of Srila Prabhupada's books. By such preaching, the preacher becomes satisfied, and those to whom he preaches are also satisfied. I mean, I can tell you personally, in this lifetime, my most wonderful experiences have been on book distribution, by far. Anybody else here have the same feeling? Yeah. Wonderful experience. If you dedicate yourself to this book distribution, you'll find that it's the most wonderful activity, very satisfying. And then Prabhupada says, this purport is just like packed with nectar. Then he says, this is the process of bringing peace and tranquility to the entire world. Everybody wants peace, and therefore there's the United Nations. But since they began the United Nations, more flags. So it's not United Nations. It's disunited nations. So the only way that the nations can become united is by Krishna consciousness. And therefore Prabhupada said, there should be one religion, Hare Krishna. There should be one book, Bhagavad Gita. There should be one mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then there will be peace and tranquility. Bhuktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheswaram suram sarvabhutaram gyatramam shanti mrishyati. This is the peace formula. Right? One is expected to understand these three formulas of knowledge concerning the Supreme Lord, that He is the Supreme Enjoyer, that He is the proprietor of everything, and that He is the best well-wisher and friend of everyone. A preacher should personally understand these truths and preach them to everyone, everywhere. Then there will be peace and tranquility all over the world.